Reportedly written in just 6 days by John Hughes, Ferris Bueller's Day Off captures a single magical day in the life of a high schooler who understands, well,
life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Ferris outsmarts his parents and his principal, steals a classic car, gets the girl, gives his best friend self-confidence, dines in a fancy restaurant, takes in a baseball game, and even sings a Beatles song on a parade float.
They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
So why is it that we only ever got that single movie? Here are some reasons why we never got to see a Ferris Bueller sequel.
Bueller.
It didn't need one. Director John Hughes and star Matthew Broderick stayed in touch for a few years after filming wrapped on Ferris Bueller's Day Off and talked about ideas for a sequel. According to Hughes, in those proposed movies, Ferris would, quote, be in college or at his first job, and the same kind of things would happen again. The two ultimately decided that a sequel like that would basically be a lame rehash, because the original movie was, quote, about a singular time in your life.
Incredible. One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
John Hughes moved on. Hughes created a string of classic teen movies, including The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, and 16 Candles. And Ferris Bueller's Day Off was just about the last one. After Bueller, Hughes only made one more teen movie in the 80s, 1987's Some Kind of Wonderful. Then he shifted to family fare like Uncle Buck and Home Alone, and more grown-up films such as She's Having a Baby and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
Busy Broderick. Matthew Broderick was one of the biggest stars of the late 80s, and a big part of that was because of his role in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. In the 5 years afterwards, Broderick starred in an eclectic bunch of movies, from contemporary dramas like Torch Song Trilogy and Project X, to comedies like Family Business and The Freshman, to period pictures like Biloxi Blues and the Oscar-winning Civil War epic Glory. With all that on his plate, Broderick just didn't have time to make a sequel. Hughes didn't dig sequels. There aren't many sequels in the Hughes filmography. While his screenplay for the first Vacation movie is based on a true story he wrote up for National Lampoon, he skipped having anything to do with European Vacation, though he did return to write Christmas Vacation. That's the only sequel Hughes ever worked on. He reportedly toyed with a follow-up to The Breakfast Club for years, which would have presumably been called The Lunch Bunch, but could never come up with a legitimate reason to get those 5 characters back into the same room again. Similarly, he just couldn't conceive a worthy Ferris Bueller sequel.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.
Second movie, second thoughts. In spite of his sequel aversion, Hughes still mapped out his ideas for Ferris Bueller 2. He shared some of them with Jeffrey Jones, who played evil Principal Rooney, at a Hughes tribute event after the director's death in 2009. Jones claimed Hughes had told him some of his ideas for Bueller 2, but all Jones would say was that it was supposed to be set in Hawaii, and that it fell apart because Broderick ultimately wasn't interested in reprising his role. What about a sequel series? In the fall of 1990, NBC debuted a single-camera sitcom called Ferris Bueller, which operated under the odd conceit that the show depicted the real-life characters in which the movie version of Ferris Bueller's Day Off was based on, and they hated the movie.
This is television. This is real.
The show, which was pretty much a standard high school sitcom notable only for the participation of a young Jennifer Aniston as Bueller's sister Jeannie, didn't attract much of an audience and was canceled halfway through the 1990-91 TV season.
Not to worry, Cameron. I fixed it.
There were 2 sequels, sort of. Though there was no full-length sequel, Matthew Broderick did sort of reprise his role as Ferris Bueller on 2 occasions. In John Hughes' 1988 relationship comedy She's Having a Baby, the end credits roll as a rapid-fire montage of celebrities throw out their ideas for what Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth McGovern's character should name their new baby. Among the cameos is Matthew Broderick clearly in character as Ferris Bueller.
Jim.
And in 2012, Broderick returned again for a 2.5-minute Honda Super Bowl commercial which features numerous nods to the movie. He may not have technically been playing Ferris Bueller, but this could be the closest we ever get to a sequel.
He bought it. How can I handle work on a day like today?
Fan script. In 2011, an amateur screenwriter named Rick Rapier went viral when he released the first 12 pages of a Ferris Bueller sequel script he'd written. The plot? Ferris Bueller is now 40 years old and is a motivational speaker a la Tony Robbins, but he's incredibly overworked, so with his business manager, Cameron Fry, he takes a day off. It couldn't gain much traction in Hollywood, however. Rapier hadn't been hired by anyone to write the script or even asked. The script was never purchased and Rapier's 15 minutes of internet fame were up.
I changed my mind. I want you out in front of the school with her. I'd like to have a few words with you, by God.
Maybe they'll do one someday. Alan Ruck, who played Ferris's best friend Cameron, has spoken about a loose idea for revisiting the movie's characters in the distant future. The plot? Cameron, still a sad sack at 70, commits himself to a nursing home even though he's in relatively good health. His old friend Ferris gets wind of it and busts him out, and the two old men have a blast, going into the city, hitting a strip club, etc. At the end, Cameron dies. With Ferris Bueller 30 years in the past and both Ruck and Broderick in their 50s now, that means this Ferris Bueller Returns could hit theaters sometime around 2036.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.